So, what's your name?
Name's Elijah or Eli as well.
All right, pleasure to meet you. So, I guess Jermaine told you. So, what did Jermaine tell you about the shop? And then, we'll kind of go from there. I'll give you kind of like an overview of what the shop is. See if it's up your alley.
Yeah. I mean, I just gave him a call. I actually have been by here
Thank you for the gifted
once.
sub.
I don't think you were in. And just the environment seemed really cozy and nice. And I just gave Jermaine a call. Saw his ad. Thought fuck it, might as well try. Gave him a call, asked if you guys are hiring. He gave me a quick rundown of he can't really hire, but you can.
Okay.
I asked him a few questions, if there's anything I can do to kind of better my chances at possibly getting hired. So I've just been doing Mosleys kind of all morning just to get better.
Absolutely.
Great at what she does. I can tell you that.
Is that right? Okay, good shit.
Yeah.
And I know you've been running into a lot of my mechanics as well. So, like, if you're saying so, I'll take your word for it. Demi Bit, thank you for the Prime sub. Thank you. All right. Well, let me, I'll give you a kind of an introduction of the shop. This shop, if you guys want to follow me, the shop is, I used to be a tow driver. And what happened was, and I know not everyone's going to be familiar with this, but the vehicles were breaking down significantly faster than they do today, to the point where after like maybe 1,000 miles on my truck, I literally was unable to use it. And so now I was kind of stuck, right? My main means of like, making bread, putting food on the table, all of a sudden, which relied on the truck, I just couldn't make it work. And every dime that I was making was literally going back to Mosleys. I was paying like $2,000-3,000 for like repairs, and there just wasn't any money there. So I was having to like work at Senior Buns and other things just in order to tow. And ultimately, with things being so bad, I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna start learning how to become a mechanic and start working on my own truck. And as I started to do that, I was the first to start doing roadside service. And you've seen like a lot of others have kind of done similar, but I was doing it well before, like, let's just say the hype around it kicked off.
Yeah, someone that I guess you inspired really helped me yesterday. So
Jermaine?
I appreciate it. No, there is someone that was also doing some roadside assistance. There was a whole situation. They helped me out a lot, and I guess I have you to thank for kind of starting that trend.
Hell yeah. And it was a really cool thing because, like, you get people, they call you up, they're like, I'm broken down over here, this, that, and that, the third, and being able to go and meet various people. That's how I met people from the lumber union, met people from sanitation. Going down there, getting up and going, getting a little bit of money, and like kind of going on your way. It was very enjoyable. And solely that mechanic work I learned, I was kind of doing what is now referred to as like nomadic repairing, which meant bring them to a close repair shop and get them sorted so they're not having to, let's say, go from Polito all the way to wherever. Well, as time sort of transpired, I started to hear a lot of the horror stories because, now I'm getting an idea how much it costs to repair a vehicle, I started to hear horror stories how people are paying like 3 times the amount over at Mosleys versus what their vehicle really needed. Now, this is not to like shit on the quote-unquote management at Mosleys, but rather just the fact that it's a state-funded facility. There's no like
very little oversight.
Exactly, there's very little oversight.
I know Marco tries, but he can't be everywhere all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like Marco's a good one, right? But yeah. As much as you can try, anybody can go and like especially then, to go and work there and then like misquote how many parts are needed, like make the vehicle seem more busted than it really is. And that's aside from, because a lot of those guys, and even I think to today, have not been running vehicles themselves don't actually know what needs to be fixed, if that makes sense. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, as a tow driver, I knew that the moment you break into the 70% mark with an axle, your toe was completely sliding all over the place, right? And so if I had a tow guy come through, I could be like, listen, I know you can't really afford this repair, but let's go throw it on the axle and let's go throw it on this, because that, like let's say the engine and the axle, well, now you're going to be pretty efficient. Like, that will get you what you need to kind of keep on going. Oh, it's just some random guy. But the more horror stories I learned, eventually I'm like, screw this, there needs to be another shop. So we became the first independent repair shop in the city with like staff and everything. Now, some may think, now, mind you, the first thing we did was we didn't go and like advertise the place. And it was because I wanted to make sure I got the right people. We had the right amount of supplies and the right customer base so that the shop was growing in a healthy manner instead of, you know, making ourselves
People
seem
coming
huge.
in waves.
Exactly. Because you could end up with 20 customers, but if you can't support 20 customers, you're going to look, you know, it's going to look like shit. And then you're going to get a bad name. But sort of fast forwarding to now, this is roadside assistant and repair shop, and we're sort of expanding into other things over time. But up here is where all of our roadside assistant, roadside technicians park up. We have, I would estimate, about a little over 10 of them across all shifts. All fantastic folks. Their responsibility is primarily getting dispatched out to customers out in the wild, helping them get jump started, bringing them down to the shop if necessary. Our shop is modeled so that they're getting a kickback when they bring someone down here. Our mechanics will work on the large utility vehicles on this yellow grid right here. Medium utility vehicles on this grid up ahead.
So like grime trucks and shit.
Grime trucks, yeah, the small ones.
Yeah. The basic
Imagine the
vans.
fleet of G6ers out.
Exactly. And then in here we'll take about like, you know, I'd say like one or two of the like cop cars or like civilian vehicles and whatnot. Over time,
This is nice.
if we get the ability, this is where our customization bay is ideally going to be. It may be a mix of this and the little segment over in the corner right there. We're hoping for the first stage, maybe a small little office in this thing right there. And then up the stairs here is where I really want to end up with like a pretty large office where we're going to have dispatchers and whatnot, so that because we understand that I don't want people to have to sit here all day if things are slow, but because people want to be out and about, they might want to go hang out with their friends or whatever. But and the nice thing about having a dispatch system is that we can work together. So I'll have my tow guys give our mechanics a call. Hey, we got someone coming down. Are you at the shop? Mechanic will come through. They'll bring the customer. So things are always like kind of moving, while it doesn't feel like a lot of shops in the past where if you're a mechanic, you're kind of having to sit here regardless of whether customers are coming through. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're just kind of stuck. Can't do anything else.
Exactly.
Even if there's no one here.
Precisely. I take a lot of I value people's time and the employees' time. So if there's ways that we can make things better, like that's always going to come to the forefront. And that includes like if someone's been on shift for 8 hours, we're, you know, check in with them, make sure like, you know, listen, at the end of the day, like this doesn't need to be your life. Over time, we want to get other business partners working here too. Like we're in talks with Updog, opening up a little like concession stand over there, so that they're bringing in customers and simultaneously, you know, a little bit of symbiosis.
Yeah, I think a food truck in here would actually do a lot to add some life.
Yep.
For sure.
Absolutely. And now each thing is going to take a couple steps at a time, right? Like this is a lot of this is kind of like big vision stuff, but we've been hitting our milestones. I think we're about 25 to 30 employees at this stage. We always have parts, which I don't think any other shop can claim. And our volume is increasing on a daily basis. And we're open about 20 out of 24 hours a day. In fact, I think our shop has been non-stop open now for, as of this morning, a little over 48 hours. So, and what I mean by that is, like, there's always a mechanic around at that time. So,
yeah, you already got one over on Mosleys because I pulled up there the other day, and Marco was like, "We don't have a single mechanic around right now." He was trying to help a ambulance driver. Yeah, it was bad.
So one of these things, and this is I'm gonna bring up the negatives now, and this is kind of in the mechanic space, so you kind of have an idea what you're getting into. The mechanic field as of right now is probably the least lucrative and the most taxing job in the city, right? If you work at senior
Nobody
bonds,
has a fucking car.
people don't have cars, but also there's a lot of undercutting that is happening by a lot of shops, and the profit margins simply are not really there. And we are trying to find ways to solve that by getting money-making activities available, so that when we got, like, there's days when we have like 5 mechanics, we might go and run group 6 together there, where we're their official repair and tow shop, along with the lumber union. So we may excuse me, we may end up going and like doing some of those activities together. Not only does it bring in extra money into our pockets, but I don't know, it makes things a little bit more exciting. So there is definitely a bigger sense here versus I think other places of, we're going to be collectively down bad. You're not going to make the most money, but we are trying to go for the most fair price for the customer, put enough in our pocket, and we're sort of investing for the tomorrow, not the today. So
there's a lot of value in the running group 6 together, like you were doing yesterday, just talking to people, getting out there, getting the word out.
Oh yes, that's right. And that's exactly why I was doing it, because in my mind, I'm like, if I get a tier 2 truck or whatever, we can be like, hey, who wants to do a run? Now we could go do a run, come back with like $2,000, let's say, in an hour or whatever it is, and then dump that into the shop, and now all of a sudden we might have a new table, we can make more parts, you know what I mean? So which I significantly prefer more than say saying, hey, let's have our mechanics go do sanitation, which in my mind is kind of fucked up, because you know what I mean? Like, I don't want us to own everything, if that kind of makes sense. Like, if our mechanics are doing sani and then our sani guys are doing mechanic stuff, like, it kind of, it's a little, you're creating too much of a bubble, if that makes sense.
I mean, the way I kind of, you know, after I talked to Jeremiah, Rowan and I met up, and, you know, he was the one that said that, you know, you guys met. It's also, you know, a good way to not only build relations but also a customer base. Almost by
1,000%.
branching out. You know?
like you want the average group 6 driver to think, oh, I'm gonna take this to Los Santos Customs, not Mosleys, you know?
Exactly. And not to mention, as you're using those tools and things, you start to figure out, like, cost savings as a group 6 driver, or as a tow driver, or like as a lumber guy, because we understand their economics. We can then set our pricing that makes sense for all parties. And to give you a prime example of this, I was doing some runs with Jason, one of the managers over at Group 6, and what I learned was a lot of the Group 6 drivers were like, imagine I took out a Group 6 truck. A lot of them would take a partner, right? Well, there was two things I learned. The first thing I learned, and this isn't a problem anymore, was a lot of these grime and Group 6 drivers, for a period of time, we're doing what I call like star rating runs. What that means is they would do the least, because you get a choice as to like how many packages to pick up, right? So like after you pick up one drop, you can choose to continue. A full load, quote unquote, which is kind of the expectation, is where the money's at, right? Because you go and do like, let's say 10 stops and then come back and then you might make $800 or whatever it is. But the alternative is, and then you end up with like 2-star rating or something. But what people were doing is that in order to advance quickly, they were only doing one pickup and then driving back. One pickup and then driving back. And so what was happening is they were then trying to pass off that cost to the mechanics by saying, oh, my vehicle is damaged, we don't make any money. No, that's not true. You're trying to get the cheap repair over here so that you get promoted over there, and then you're going to start printing all this money. So they're like subsidizing their cost of work over to the mechanic. So I put a stop to that. On the flip side, now that some of the bosses have kind of changed their ways, but the latest problem that I noticed was like, Jason came through and he's like, yo, we're bleeding money right now. Like, I've taken this truck out, I only made this much, And so I went on a run with him, and what I learned was that the typical behavior of someone like Jason, who owns his truck, does maintenance, when he took on a partner, the partner was getting their entire paycheck, while like Jason was paying all the repairs that the partner was benefiting from. So I spoke to him, I spoke to Alex, I spoke to some of the others. I'm like, yo, y'all need to start getting your partners to give back, contribute back, and boom, things start to make sense again, right? Because now instead of them paying $1,000, it's 500 each. Now all of a sudden they're getting money in their pocket. You know what I'm saying? So it's these.
I mean, whenever I do grime sometimes, and whenever I do it, I have my passenger pay for the the power and food.
Yeah.
So I pay for the repairs, and then they do that.
See, that's smart.
Money,
Yeah. Oh, 1,000%.
We don't have to like split, quote unquote, anything and make it awkward. But it's just like, I did this, you did that. Nice split, easy.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's it. It's I think it's a smart way to do it, because like if you think of mechanics in other cities, right? The best ones are the ones that can understand your particular issue and find a solution to it. Specialists, exactly. Like if you've got like a Supra, like a from the 90s, and you bring it in, you could bring it to a random mobile gas station, right? And they could change your oil, they could change a part, reading some instructions, but you bring it to the right person, they might be like, okay, well, you need this side turbo, or like in this commercial industry, they may be like, well, you want this truck, you want to change those things. So us learning about these other vehicles that are out on the road, like, and bringing that knowledge back to ourselves and our customers, it's just people are going to find value in that, quite frankly.
No doubt.
So all said and done, let me tell you some of the negatives, right? The way that we're currently operating under is we're trying to make sure that all our mechanics and tow drivers are kind of feeding back some revenue back into the company. What that allows us to do is increase the amount of supply we have and increase our production chain, which means parts available, etc., etc. You will find that if you go work somewhere else, you may be able to get those parts for significantly cheaper, but I promise you those shops are going to fall over, because the moment someone breaks into the house, it's not sustainable. Exactly. Someone breaks into that house, if we get taxed, right, they're ribbozo, right? So we're really, asking our folks to make a bit of a sacrifice for the short period, for the sake of security, knowing that every single dime right now is going back into ventures and stuff that is meant for the collective. I have personally putting every dime back into the business. Stuff comes back, it goes right in. And we are also like tracking contributions from folks in the shop, like on an Excel sheet, so that when the time comes and money's getting printed, we know who put in what. And this is not to create some kind of like leaderboard system, right? Where like, you know, hey, Jermaine put in 50,000 and like Brandon only put in 20. Jermaine is a legend, and you know what I mean? But rather that when the time comes and the money's coming out, everyone's kind of getting like, you know, like a kickback at that stage, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
Like an investment.
Precisely. Exactly.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yep.
A lot more sense than how 90% of the businesses in the city are operating right now.
Yeah, I think the best way to put it is that the economy nowadays is a lot more complicated than that of the past. Yeah. And some people are using business models based on like they don't know what they're doing is the best way I can explain it.
Less ethical methods, yeah.
Precisely. So
makes sense.
Do you have any like questions for me?
When do I start?
Okay. I would say that the prerequisite, I want you to have at least 10 to 15K in the bank, and I'll explain what the reason for that is. You will be buying parts from one of 4 people right now. It's going to be either myself, Eve Summers, Walker, or Donnie. The way that things work internally is that we have our suppliers give us material, we produce the parts, and then we, you know, give them to our employees at the price, because there's no like company bank accounts, right? So instead of, we used to do like IOUs, like let's say I give you 10 parts across, you would owe back the money for those after you get the repairs. But over time we realized that the amount of like paperwork and tracking is like insane. So instead it'll be like, yo, I need 10 across, boom boom, I get you the 10 across, you pay it up front, and then you make the money on top. So
you, Eve, Donnie, and who, sorry?
Walker, he's like late night.
All right. Got him noted down.
And the reason I aim for 10 to 15,000 is so I want to make sure that in like a worst case scenario, someone comes and robs you, right? You're completely hosed, right? The second is so that even when you do buy the parts, you're not finding yourself super broke. How close to about like 10, 15 are you right now?
I'm over.
Oh shit. Okay, well that makes life easier. All right. Well then,
big baller over here.
Okay, well with that said, are you signed in right now as a mechanic?
I am not, no.
Okay, let's go sign in real quick, and I will I'm gonna introduce you to one of our mechanics.